Today's Antiques Roadshow comes from the Midlands city of Derby, from the Roundhouse, a building that's the oldest of its kind anywhere in the world. This was the NASA of its day. Built in 1839, it was part of the Derby Locomotive Works, building trains and carriages. Steam trains were like the space rockets of the 19th century, and the best engineers from all over the world came to work here, building some of the finest machines of the Industrial Revolution. This vast space is where steam engines were brought to be repaired and maintained when Derby was centre of the rail industry in the 1800s. Nearly 40 metres across, it could hold up to 16 massive locomotives at a time. Each one would be brought into the central turntable and turned towards a repair bay. The revolutionary roundhouse, no pun intended, was designed by the architect Francis Thompson, assisted by Robert Stephenson, the only son of George Stephenson, the man we all think of as the father of the railways. And everything was made here from raw materials. Foundries to smelt iron ore, tanneries to create leather for the upholstery. At its peak, it produced a staggering 50 trains a year for the Midlands Rail Company and employed 8,000 people working across the site. The last engine rolled out in 1967, and over the next 20 years, the vast Derby works was slowly shut down and most of it demolished, although trains are still made in the city. Luckily, the Roundhouse survived. It's been restored and has recently become home to Derby College. And it's the perfect venue for today's roadshow, as our specialists get ready to meet visitors from Derby and beyond. And if you want to test your antiques knowledge, play along with our valuation game. Just press the red button on your remote control.
Now, you're the archivist of the Alexandra Palace Television Society. Tell me a little bit about why it's always considered the birthplace of TV.
Because that's where the BBC television service started in November 1936 with electronic television camera tubes and a mechanical television system developed by John Logie Baird, who most people think as the founder of British television.
But apparently his system failed. I mean, it was not nearly as efficient as the EMI one, which you've got here.
Not at all. It was very inflexible. The camera was bolted to the studio floor. In one of his systems, the performer had to be in the dark and was scanned by a brilliant spot of light, whereas these cameras could go out and about, were mobile. You could do outside broadcasts with these, which you couldn't do on the Baird system. So it soon became apparent that this was the way to go with modern television.
So what actually is this tube and where did it sit?
It's actually in the camera with the lens here, and the image was focused onto a signal plate in the bulb here, which was scanned by this beam, which then turned the image into an electrical signal, which made up the television picture.
Okay, is that a...
Yes, that's the actual case that this tube would have fitted into.
And that starts in 1936?
1936.
Well, looking around the studio today, I mean, we've moved on a bit since 1936.
You have indeed, yes.
So you brought a small selection of archive items from the collection, and so maybe we should start here with the opening of the television service. This is the original?
That's the original running order that was actually used in the control room on opening day. And this was the actual invitation that was sent to people that were invited to be in the studio for the opening ceremony.
And then you've got some original film, 35mm film?
We've got the original television demonstration film from the mid to late 40s. Radio Times television supplements that only appeared in the London edition of the Radio Times, because television at that point was only receivable in the London area and about 50 miles outside of that. So it was quite a limited range. It was assumed there was, say, 200,000 viewers in the London area, roughly 20,000 television sets.
So very small, very local.
Yes, indeed. In total, we've got about 8,000 items.
Well, maybe as one of the longest running TV shows, maybe the Antiques Roadshow can give you some of our archive as well.
Well, there you go, you never know.
I mean, what's it worth? Historically, massively important.
Yes.
Some of these are unique, one-offs, so there's no way I can say that's worth, £100, that's worth 1,000. These, however, the tubes, the TV tubes, occasionally do come up for sale. And one in this condition, mint condition, I would think, with its lens, no housing, at auction, I could see it making £2,500 to £3,000, that sort of figure. But as far as the rest of the archive, it's worth tens, if not hundreds of thousands of pounds, because it is the history of British broadcasting, irreplaceable, and I'm delighted it's going to go into permanent exhibition at the home of and birthplace of TV.
So are we.
Delighted. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The vision and sound are on. The station goes on the air.
A mighty